Baby, be in love with your fantasies. I can be a star, make a sky so bright. Welcome to my dungeon, this is ecstasy. Let me play the fantasy.
What's good, YouTube? It's your girl, Asia.
It's your boy, BJ.
And we
back like we never left. Thank you guys for tuning in, pulling back up. Yeah. Most importantly, shout out to everybody that hit that thumbnail and came into the Asia and BJ world.
Yeah.
All right, so y'all, I know y'all see that thumbnail. We're about to start going down this rabbit hole. This actually is a video that one of our loyal supporters sent to us, and I'm ready to jump into it. I've never heard of MKUltra, A Day in My Life.
No,
I've never heard of it.
When I saw the title to it, I got excited.
Yeah.
I got excited. So I'm glad you get to check it. I don't know everything about it. Okay. Don't get me wrong. But I know some stuff, like little stuff. Let me just tell you in advance that it's either you're going to believe it or you're not going to believe it, or you're going to be like kind of in between. It's one of those.
Kind of want one of those types of things, one of those types of topics.
Yeah, make your own judgment to it.
And this is actually from the Joe Rogan podcast, too. This video is titled The Secret History of MKUltra with Tom O'Neill.
Yeah. All right. Well, make sure y'all like and comment, subscribe. Let's jump into this video.
Okay, let's check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
So you brought up MKUltra.
Yes.
MKUltra was a government program run by the Central Intelligence Agency. Originally started as something called Bluebird in 1948-49, morphed into Artichoke, and then in 1952 became MKUltra. It was a mind control program, a brainwashing program. The CIA was trying to learn how to control.
That's scary, right?
Hey, let's go. He just threw me off for a quick second.
The fact that they would be capable of such a thing.
People's behavior without their knowledge. Now, this is all came out in Senate and congressional hearings in the 70s. It was exposed, but nobody knew about it until 1974 when Seymour Hersh, the New York Times reporter, reported it on the front page of the paper. So their main objective was to create what they called hypno-programmed assassins, people who would kill on command, popularly known as Manchurian Candidates, after a book that was written in 1962 and later became a movie and then a movie again.
Yeah, that was a movie.
The people would be, through drugs and hypnotism, the objective was to get people to go and commit an act of murder against their moral code and have no memory of their programming and be amnesic even of the act after the fact.
That's
often.
Crazy.
That was just that was their main goal, but they were also trying to create couriers, people, military people that they could implant messages, send them, across dangerous areas where there were, at that time it was the Vietnam War, and deliver messages and then have them wiped from their memory in case they were captured. They had all kinds of objectives. So,
do you think they would have done that without them not having any knowledge of it?
I think that they can. I mean, we watched The Bourne Identity.
I mean, it's but they would be sending their people we'd be sending our own people into enemy territories, and then supposedly allow them to wipe their memories clean, and they have no idea that they're walking into this place that there's a high probability they are not coming back.
Yeah, this sounds like real top secret. Wow. G13 classified, for real.
Jeez.
Their memory in case they were captured. They had all kinds of objectives. So Roger Smith was supervising Manson when he became he was able to do exactly what the MKUltra program had been trying to create and do for, at that point, about 15, 17 years. When it was all exposed in the 70s, and there were these hearings, first the Rockefeller Commission hearings and the church hearings, and then finally Senators Ted Kennedy and Daniel Inouye held hearings. The CIA admitted that they had done this, but no one would say exactly what they did. All the records had been destroyed when the two people who ran it, Richard Helms, who had become the director of the CIA in the 60s, and Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, who was kind of the mad scientist who had supervised they had safe houses in San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles, where they would experiment on people that were lured into these apartments and houses that were either look like brothels or hippie communes or whatever. And the people who were working at the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic that was run by another Smith, which makes it a little confusing, but Dr. David Smith, who founded it, he had given an office to a scientist named Jolly West, Louis J. West, who was, when the hearings occurred in the 70s, identified as a top MK Ultra researcher. He was an academic, come out of the military, had been at the University of Oklahoma, and then UCLA, running the psychiatric divisions. He denied ever being involved in MK Ultra. And this was one of the moments, I think it was 2001, when, things really kind of shook the course of my reporting, was I learned that West had been at the same place that Manson was in the Haight in the summer that Manson became exactly what the CIA was trying to create. And I knew, actually, I'd interviewed West about 7 years before.
He said Manson. He's talking about Charles Manson, right?
I think so.
He just brought his name up.
Yeah.
That's like the second time he said Manson.
That's why I'm like, what?
And he did say something about California, so, wow.
No way.
No way. No way that Charles Manson could be part of that.
Damn.
And I knew,
No
actually,
way.
I'd interviewed West about 7 years before for a story I did about celebrity stalkers, the people who were obsessed with stars and then only to kill them or try to kill them. And he was an expert in violence, hypnotism, brainwashing, and he was the chair of the psychiatry department at UCLA at that point. He was dead when his name came up in the Manson story, and there wasn't a lot of, I guess there was a lot of Google then, or a little bit, but when I did a little research, I found out that there had been these allegations that he'd been involved in MK Ultra. He always denied it. He was never prosecuted, never even investigated. He went to his grave threatening to sue anybody that said he would have anything to do with this kind of a program.
Wow.
Again, through another long story, but I got access to his files, which had been left at UCLA, and they had never been processed when I called. And when I made the request, it took them 2 or 3 months to process the papers. I went through them through the whole summer looking for a needle in a haystack, and it was intuition, gut. I just thought there might be something there, and sure enough, I eventually found it. It was correspondence between Jolly West and Sidney Gottlieb, the doctor that ran MK Ultra, beginning in 1953, about conducting experiments on people without their knowledge to get them to have amnesia of the acts after they were programmed, and everything that he had been accused of and denied, he did. Not only did he do it, he created the blueprint for the whole program with Gottlieb.
Hey, this is just like Born Identity.
That's what I'm saying. It literally is like almost to the T when you think about it, and it's almost like art imitating life.
That is, man, I got goosebumps. That's cruel.
Sometimes when you watch some movies, like sometimes they can be loosely based on like actual
like
real
the real
events.
truth.
As far as as far fetched as it may seem, but that's exactly what he's explaining. You know what I mean?
Wow. So I wonder if they made that movie based off of like this.
Bro, I'm thinking that's just a movie that somebody sat there and conjured up.
I
And
did too.
He's literally explaining exactly. You know
Born
what I mean?
Identity.
Yeah, that's a fact.
The fact that all these kind of interesting research programs merged at the Haight, at the clinic, and then Manson came out of it with the power to do exactly what the MK Ultra had been trying to create for up to that point, I thought was worth investigating further, and that's why I kept going and going and going.
They did a lot of crazy shit back then. Are you aware of Operation Midnight Climax?
Those were the safe houses in San Francisco.
Well, that was the brothel version of it. Yeah, where they lured these Johns into these brothels and then dosed them up with LSD and studied them.
Yeah,
Wow.
George Hunter White was the head CIA guy, and he would sit behind a two-way or one-way mirror and watch the Johns would be dosed with LSD. They tried aerosols or just drinks, different things, and then they would study their behaviors.
Aerosols.
Yeah, aerosol sprays.
Really?
Yeah.
But that would get the prostitutes too then, no?
No, the prostitutes would get them in there, and then they go to the bathroom or something, or to
then
be
they'd
in the
spray
bathroom.
'em?
Yeah.
Oh,
and again,
Jesus.
the problem is the records are so scant because Helms order Gottlieb to destroy all the records in 1973 when the two men left the agency. And the only reason anybody ever discovered that it existed was a whistleblower, somebody who used to work for the State Department who remembered that there were records in a warehouse, and they were just financial records from the beginning of the program in 52 until the end, and the possible end in 73.
I don't think it's
done. And it was just financial records of where research took place, how much was spent, what kind of equipment was bought, but nothing about the content. The guy that found that ended up testifying to Congress and working with Seymour Hersh to expose it was named John Marks. He wrote the first book about MKUltra that came out in the mid to late 70s called The Search for the Manchurian Candidate. And after he wrote his book, he never, he spoke, did a little bit of a tour, and then retreated into obscurity and never would do an interview again until I approached him in the early 2000s. And when I told him what I had found in West's files, these documents, he agreed to meet with me at his townhouse in Washington, D.C., and he told me, he said, the reason...
That man was scared for his life.
Had to be.
I ain't doing no interview either.
Yeah, you're right. I wouldn't have been doing no interview
not
either.
with that kind of information.
I know.
I'm just saying, I'm going to hide.
And everything right now that Tom O'Neill's talking about right now, I mean, he's talking in clear detail. He's really breaking it down.
Ooh.
So if anybody had to try to put any holes in his story or try to say that this is just based on just conspiracies. As of right now, like I said, this is my first time even experiencing, listening to anything about MKUltra. He got my full attention right now.
Yeah. I don't think it's done though. I think low key that this still goes on. We just don't know.
It might be named a different program at this point.
Yeah, it's definitely a different program.
To meet with me at his townhouse in Washington, D.C., and he told me, he said, the reason I stopped talking or writing about this was people were camping out on my front lawn, telling me that they'd been victims of MKUltra. He goes, I couldn't go anywhere. My whole life became crazy because everybody thought that they were subject to this because nobody knew. They did these drug tests on prisoners, hospital patients, Johns, hippies, people that had no idea that this was going on for 25 years. So Marks became the authority. So he had never given an interview till he met with me. And when he looked at my documents, at that point, I think I had about 10 or 12 or 15 pages that grew eventually because I kept going back to the files and getting more. He said it was the most unredacted, uncensored account of what the real objectives were and what was really being done. He said if I had had that, my whole book would have been different. That's one of the problems about saying, well, how much did they do or how far did they go? There's barely any record, and that's another reason it took me 20 years, because I was trying to find out whether or not Wes had actually interacted with Manson and or the girls. I mean, I knew he was in the same facility. I knew that everybody that worked there, because I interviewed everybody that was alive. Most of them were still alive back in the late 90s and early 2000s when I did this. They all said, oh, yeah, Charlie was, we knew it was Charlie and the girls. They come in every day or every few days to see Roger. And West was there recruiting subjects. Now, West, while he was there, that summer had opened something called what he called the Haight-Ashbury Project. And in his correspondence and papers that I found, he called it a laboratory disguised as a hippie crash pad. And, and just like the Operation Midnight, they call them safe houses, which were disguised as bordellos and that type of thing, or brothels. This was an apartment that was decked out, or as he called it, tricked out to look like a communal hippie place. He had 6 graduate students, and I have his letters to them before they came to work in this. He goes, grow your hair long, wear jeans, dress like hippies, and lure people in there. So they ran that for the summer of '67, and Wes was getting people from that Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic on Clayton Street and sending them around the corner to Frederick Street to participate in that.
Good Lord.
And I got the diaries of some of the graduate students who were there, and they all, in these diaries, said, we have no idea what we're really supposed to be doing here. We feel like this whole thing is a cover for something else. What does Jolly want? Why is he making us bring these people in? So
imagine doing that to graduate students, telling them to bring people in and drug them up. Imagine telling them
some of
to
them
make an
liked
apartment. I'm sure they
because
liked
they
it.
were also, encouraged to use LSD.
Yeah, I'm sure. But I mean, imagine being a graduate student and this is your project on people. I mean, that sets up, even if you leave that program and go on to do legitimate work, the ethical foundations of your career are set up in such a strange way. You're manipulating people against their knowledge.
Well, they didn't know who they were doing it for. That's why they were always questioning it. So, I don't know how. I found one or two of them after, and they were very careful talking to me.
I'm sure they
Yeah.
probably felt like they were going to go to jail.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. If any of these experiments or whatever was going on resulted in a death, there's no statute of limitations on murder.
Right, right.
I mean, that's one of the biggest disappointments of my book is that people like West aren't alive, to answer to this. And it was really frustrating for me because, again, his name was on the front page of the New York Times in 1977 when they had the major hearings about MKUltra. And it identified him as the head of the psychiatry department at UCLA, a very prominent doctor, researcher.
Wow.
And he said he had nothing to do with that. He'd never used LSD on humans, and he wouldn't. He said they had asked him, and he said no. I have all these letters between him and the guy who was running the program describing how they're going to do it, hide it from his colleagues. When he started at Lackland Air Force Base. He was running the psychiatry department at the hospital there in 1952. When he was there running that hospital, that's when he started his experiments on prisoners, human subjects, and one letter to Gottlieb, he says, eventually we have to take these experiments out into the field.
Oh, Jesus.
Wow.
Exactly.
What does that mean?
Well, if you haven't gotten through a Chapter 11 yet, you haven't gotten to the Jimmy Shaver case.
No, I haven't.
A year after, maybe Jamie did. A year after West contracted with the CIA to do these experiments, July 4th, 1954, a 3-year-old girl went missing from the parking lot of a bar at about 11 or 12 at night. Now, her parents, it was a heat wave. They couldn't sleep. They went to the bar. They brought their 2 kids. They let them play in the parking lot at midnight. The little girl disappeared. They organized a search party. About 3 or 4 hours later, they went to a gravel pit, and two airmen had called, or 2 itinerant guys had called the local sheriff and said, there's a guy here that wandered out of the brush with scratches and blood, no shirt, and he doesn't know how he got here or who he is. The police came. His name was Jimmy Shaver. He was an airman. They did a search, and they found the little girl's body not too far away, and she had been raped and murdered by this guy who had no memory of doing it. The guy had no history of violence. He had a couple kids, and he was a flight instructor at the school. He'd been in the military for a number of years. I think he was in his early 30s. Well, guess who became his psychiatrist in preparation for the trial? Jolly West.
No way.
Who inserted himself into the case and then extracted his memory from him using sodium pentothal, where he admitted to the murder. Now, in the context of what we found out West was doing and what his objectives were, at that same time, it raises huge questions about this was an experiment gone wrong, that he was part of one of these experiments at Lackland Air Force Base where he was signed up. During the trial, it came out that he had had treatment for severe migraines, experimental treatment at Lackland. That's another, a smaller subchapter in the book. But
that's crazy.
Is there something, I feel like there's something that I saw, there's something that I read, I can't remember. I really cannot. And in this, I want to say it was like a video. It was like a video, but I was watching a video and they had this guy, he was in the military, Air Force, and they were doing an experiment on him. And I think like they come in, somebody please tell me I'm not crazy and where to find this, because I feel like I started watching it, but I didn't finish watching it. So they came in and, he's like, no, let me go. because he's like out of his mind, and they're taking him out of this room, but they're looking at him through this glass, and then I want to say like he even, what was it though? Like that's what I remember of it, but it was, I don't know if it was like a video, maybe it was some type of documentary I was looking at. I would just be curious to know where I can find that again, because I don't know where. I might have been watching it, like something on YouTube about it, and they were like showing like an exaggerated type of version, like almost
of
like
the experiment.
Of the experiment. But for this doctor to be getting away with it, and then he starts to work, he contracts with the CIA. Was it the fact that he was a doctor? He was so pristine in his field of expertise, like his professional, that nobody stopped him? Like nobody was like, this is not right.
That, or the fact that it was just so covert that nobody really even knew about it because it just went under the radar.
But the CIA started working with him though. So why would, like, it's almost like
outside of them knowing,
let's work together and see if we can get something out of this and do what he said at the very beginning. Let's see if we can get people to do stuff with no knowledge or recollection of anything that happened to them.
Yeah, as far as they just controlling them and making them do things
totally against their moral code. And let's see what happens. Like, let's see what happens. Like, and for some reason, the part that stands out to me was that this guy comes running out of the forest. He is like scratched up, and he doesn't know. Some guy just pulled up to him on the side of the road, and he asked him if he needed help because he was naked. So I don't know where I saw that. But that's what, when he said that, I was
and
like,
it was attributed
that's
to
what I was
MK
looking
Ultra.
at. Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know. I just can't remember where I saw it. So, yeah. What do you think?
As of right now, I mean, everything that he's talking about, like I said, in detail, even with him bringing up like UCLA and bringing up people that work there and how they had like these safe houses set up all throughout like LA, San Francisco. Again, like I said, it sounds like a covert program that's set up by the CIA, the government, to have people minds controlled so they can commit atrocious acts.
It's a sophisticated like type of situation right here, like the whole ring of it.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
That's another, a smaller subchapter in the book. But
does it describe what kind of experimental treatment he received?
No, because nobody. I mean, I have all the testimony. There was actually a trial, a retrial, and sentencing. And every time it came up, it was really frustrating because he never testified. So it was either his wife or his mother who would talk about it. It was mostly his mother saying, well, all I knew was they wanted him to be involved in this 2-year study to try to relieve his migraines. He would have such horrible migraines, he would put his head in buckets of ice water.
Yeah.
Wow.
The people who described encountering him that night when he was arrested and immediately taken out of the sheriff's custody by the military police and brought to Lackland and then back to the sheriff's.
Come on.
He was in a trance. The doctors tested him for alcohol because they thought, well, maybe he's drunk. He had just a little bit of alcohol in his system, but he wasn't drunk. And after the fact, they found out that he had, I mean, I don't want to get into this because it's really getting into the weeds, but he had hallucinated that this little girl was a cousin who sexually abused him as a child, and he was trying to kill her. Her name was Beth Rainbow. All this stuff came out of the trial. Jolly West in 1955 sent a report to Sidney Gottlieb, which nobody had seen, and it was another document I found in his files, announcing that he had learned how to, or developed the technology to remove true memories and replace them with false memories in a human subject without their knowledge.
Wow.
Which was one of the main goals, the biggest goals of the MK Ultra program. And again, when the CIA, when they had the hearings in the 70s, the CIA said nothing was successful. Everything we tried was a failure. Wow. It was a waste of money. We shouldn't have done it. And not just me, but most experts think that that was a cover, that they didn't want to admit that they had developed these technologies that were effective. They also claim that they had released everything they had. I found the same report where West said that he had learned how to replace true memories with false ones without a person's awareness. But they had removed that from the report and then released it to Congress. So that's a crime right there, you know. So there's a lot of that stuff in the book.
So the speculation is that this guy, through these experimental treatments, that they had dosed him up with LSD and experimented using these MK Ultra techniques and did that to him and induced some sort of...
Well, this is speculation,
Yes.
and I'll go there for this. The guy had no history of violence, never been arrested, was a stellar, upstanding citizen. His only problem was he had these horrible headaches. All of a sudden, he shows up by a small girl's body who'd been brutally murdered with no memory of doing it. A year earlier, Dr. West, who became a psychiatrist within a week or two, possibly had experiences with him before, but there was no record. Oh, when I tried to get the record from the medical center at Lackland, his file, his name was Shaver, I think it was S-A to S-I, was missing.
Oh, yeah.
So where Shaver would have been and the medical records, it was gone.
All right.
So I couldn't find out whether he had actually participated in any kind of experimental program there.
So is the speculation, and again, this is speculation, that he did commit the crime, that he was somehow or another induced into committing this crime?
Yeah, and again, this is speculation.
Yes.
It's completely circumstantial. The objective was to get people who would go out and do things, not even necessarily kill. That was the ultimate goal, but to do things against their will, against their moral code.
Right,
even.
but how would they know that this child would be there? How would they know?
Oh, no. She wasn't targeted.
So was it just that they'd put it into his head to go
Yeah,
do
and
that to anyone?
Yeah, something clicked and went wrong.
So it wasn't a precise thing.
No,
It wasn't.
no. Nobody really knew what this was the very early days of experimenting with LSD in the early 1950s. West was one of the premier researchers in LSD, but he was still new to it. He had actually he had first gained national attention for being one of 4 or 5 doctors who treated Korean prisoners of war who were returned to the United States after they had made confessions of spraying the Korean countryside with illegal biological weapons.
Wow.
The United States said that we don't use that. That's against the Geneva Codes. And these guys were brainwashed by the North Korean, Chinese, Soviets. So when they were brought back after the war, West and 4 other psychiatrists were assigned to deprogram them. What a lot of researchers believe is that they actually brainwashed them into thinking they'd been brainwashed by the Koreans, where they actually were telling the truth. Because there's a lot of evidence that's come out as recently as 5-6 years ago that we did use these weapons in Korea.
Oh, boy, the old double cross.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Joe Rogan said he's at the double cross. I can see how
man.
I can see how they could potentially be using the LS as far as like manipulating people, because obviously, you know, like LS is like one of those types of drugs that's already like psychoactive, you know, and then from there it just sounds like they're just whatever the techniques are that they're using to brainwash, to control people and to get them to do things that's against their will.
I just think that would be so precise, you know, like it would just be something so precise that you would be able to put something like that in somebody's body and completely alter their way of thinking, and then to put something else in them and then make them forget.
I know you was asking about like hypnosis and like is that like a real thing? It sounds like that would probably be part of the technique.
But see, you know what?
To some degree.
I would just be curious, like, so, yeah, because I would be curious to know, like, that just makes me even want to go back even more to figure out, like, get into the realm of how hypnotism even started.
Mm-hmm.
How does it even become a thing? Like, how do you become certified and being able to put somebody in a trance? And I feel like
you don't need to go down there. You know what I mean?
That's
you don't need to go down there.
No, but I'm saying, like, I can see the similarities here. Like, because if you can get somebody, remember I was telling him, like, you can literally get anybody that you can get people to do, at least from what it looks like on TV when they're in a trance, like when they're hypnotized, they can do a lot. They have a control over you. I don't know. I still don't. I just don't believe that.
And even if they were like doing like these types of experiments and having people going out doing things against their own moral code, why can't they do experiments that goes against or that goes along with somebody's good moral code? It seems like there's always some sinister Dr. Evil plan to do harm, to do evil. And this right here speaks to like the higher ups. When we talk about like CIA, things of that nature, like, and then a lot of times, just like we saw in The Bourne Identity, like they can make a program completely like disappear in thin air.
Right.
You know?
And nobody goes to investigate.
And then the files and then the paperwork, all that, the paper trail,
all of
disappears.
It's gone. They allowed this person to literally destroy all of the research, the history, like everything that he had looked up, every experiment that he had done, and then mysteriously comes out and says, "Oh no, it didn't work, so we stopped doing it. It was a waste of time." Can you imagine how many people died from this stupid experiment?
Yeah.
Until they figured it out, because it doesn't work for a long time, especially when you're doing something like that. How many people?
He said 25 years.
Right. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people that probably died.
That's over decades, yeah.
People they had to come up missing to do these experiments with, people that probably are still never to be seen from, heard from to this day. The family never found out what happened to him. He disappeared into thin air. He gone.
Yeah, and not just that, but I'm just wondering like what other programs that did this particular program spawn? Like what other programs did they do, that they pick up and start doing, like based on the research that they did with this MK Ultra? Because I guarantee you that there's a new program with a whole different name.
You better know
that
it.
is still probably rooted
Hell
in
yeah.
what we just watched right now.
Absolutely it is.
And then you wonder why we be seeing all these crazy events going on around the world, and you just like, you're trying to figure out like what was that person thinking when they committed those particular acts.
Right.
You got some crazy people out here that's doing crazy stuff, but I feel like potentially there could be other people doing crazy things because they've been put up to do it.
Yeah. Again, I think what makes it unbelievable, like even when somebody please tell me where that video is, where I can find that. But
yeah, I like to look at it too.
It blows my mind that like the sinister, the like acts behind that. Like, I can't imagine sitting behind a glass and injecting somebody with something and then seeing how they react, knowing that you're going to put them under this influence of putting them out of their minds, basically. I
need to watch that movie, whatever you said, Manchurian Candidate. I've heard of that movie before.
Manchurian Candidate?
Yeah, Manchurian Candidate.
Write that down.
Yeah.
I gotta write that down.
You're going to have to write that one down.
But
we're going to have to check that one out.
Hold on. Manchurian
Candidate. Yeah.
I'm going to look into that book, too, he was talking about.
Manchurian Candidate, and we're gonna have to tap in. We're gonna have to check that out and see what that's all about. Because again, like I said, we watched several movies, and again, when you watch movies, and it seemed like these movies are like far fetched based on like government programs. It's now it got me just like completely like rethinking everything that I watched.
I never yeah.
To know that could, potentially, from what we're watching right here, there's truth.
I think
to some of these movies we watched.
That's probably why I even had that thought that I even had, was because when we watched Bourne Identity, people were putting in the comments, you need to look up MK Ultra. You need to see what MK Ultra is. And I think that's when I started looking, and I was like, oh snap.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Like, this movie is based off of like you said, real stuff. Like,
it's like when life when art start imitating life, some of these things aren't far fetched as they seem when you're watching it.
Right.
But you got to think, like, where did they get the idea to even come up with this?
Right. There's
always
an idea that's not imaginable.
So at the end of the day, the truth.
Somebody had to see that somewhere.
At the end of the day, the truth is much more sinister than you think it is.
Right. Yeah. Okay, y'all. So y'all got to chime in. I cannot wait to read the comments on this, because y'all, I know, give me some links. Tell me.
Yeah,
we're
going to have to Google some of this stuff. We're going to have to Google.
And if there's something else that we need to check out, make sure y'all send us an email, contact us on social media. We're everywhere. Hashtag Asia and BJ on all of our social media platforms. Okay, so make sure y'all reach out. If y'all enjoyed this, give us a big thumbs up. Like, comment, subscribe. Smash that notification bell so you don't miss any videos from Asia and BJ. And if ain't nobody else told you, I love you. We're going to see y'all in the next video. Y'all.
Salute. Peace and blessings.
Bye.